Hello, it's Karen Burniston here with an assembly video for one of our die sets. This is die number 1271, the music charms, and you can check out all of our die designs at karenburniston.com. There are 13 individual dies in the set. They combine to make the grand piano, the trumpet, the treble clef, the ukulele. Those are the charms. And then you also have those staff lines and the music notes, and the staff lines are repeatable. With some of the dies, it's just straight cut. In other words, go to the scrap bin, find the right colors, and just cut them. So I'm doing that with the staff lines, the ukulele, the white keys, and the trumpet. Now everything can just be assembled with glue, but I like to use double-sided adhesive tape. I like the Score Tape brand on the back of the scraps that I'm using for the ukulele layers. And that does a couple things. Like in the case of the strings and the little ring, it just makes them stickers, so it's just easier than using glue. And then in the case of the frets, they will be embossed from the cushion of that adhesive, so I don't have to change out my machine to an embossing sandwich. So here's what I mean by that. The cushion of the tape pushes the paper up through the die, and then you get the embossed frets without having to change out the sandwich. And then I can also use that as a stencil feature, so that's optional, but I can take a pen and just go through the die and stencil on those frets, or I could sponge through the die with ink. And my very favorite pens for doing the stenciling are the Staedtler Triplus fine liners. They just come in all sorts of colors. Our dies are wafer-thin designs. You can absolutely use any die cutting machine that can accommodate a wafer-thin die. Some of the little smaller machines are perfect for our charm sets. I'm using my Spellbinders Platinum 6. One way to get shiny pieces if you don't have mirror cardstock is just to use clear packaging tape over plain cardstock. So I'm doing that with the black pieces. I am not a musician, but I took just enough piano lessons as a kid to understand a little bit about notes, and one of them is that I knew that some people would want to have half notes. So what you would do with half notes is you'll just use the stencil feature on the music notes die with a white gel pen to fill in the center so that they look like half notes. Now, if you still want to do that shiny note thing, what you can do is you can basically make a hinge on the die with your temporary tape, use the stencil feature before die cutting. Then go ahead and add your clear packaging tape over the top of your stenciled half notes and then run it through. So it doesn't have to be either or, either a stencil or the packaging tape. You can do it in this order and get both. So now the white gel pen is basically trapped underneath the packaging tape and it will not smear. Now, since I'm using packaging tape instead of black mirror card, I can put the packaging tape just on the right side of the cardstock when I'm cutting the grand piano charm. And I only do that because the lid of the grand piano will then be shiny, but the back that I'm not going to see anyway will just be flat black cardstock, and that will make it easier to attach the keyboard with glue. Now, if I'm using black mirror card, I don't get the option to do half and half, so that's fine. I just hold the glue a little bit longer. The little circle that I cut at the same time, that's actually for the ukulele. I cut that earlier out of the shiny black and realized I'd probably rather have that be flat black for ease of gluing. Okay, so here is that two-tone grand piano. With assembly videos, I like to give you all the tricks. You don't have to adopt all of them. I also like to address any kind of troubleshooting I can think of. So what I'm doing now is I am cutting with a scrap of black cardstock just the area of the grand piano charm that has the lift-up support to hold the lid up. Now what I'm going to do with this extra piece is I'm going to patch the hole from the first one. I would consider this step pretty optional, especially if you're giving the card in person. But if it's going through the mail, there's a lot of pressure against the cards in the mail, and maybe the lid of the grand piano comes down and the support that's supposed to spring back up is now a little bit trapped in the opening where it was die cut. So you patch that hole, you don't have that issue. The trumpet is just die cut and you're done. If you don't want to use it as a charm, you can snip off the charm hole. Same thing with the treble clef, works great as a charm. You can dangle that off of something, or if you don't need it to be a charm, you can just trim off the charm hole. The music staff lines are repeatable, so just some glue in the vertical and then add a new one to it, and that can go on forever. If you are not much of a composer, you can absolutely just put those music notes wherever you like to on those staff and just have it be a cool musical decoration. But if you're sending the card to somebody that is musically inclined, you could have the Easter egg of having the music actually be a tune. So that's something that Lois on our design team has been doing, and I just love that idea. So having the notes plink out happy birthday, for instance, when you're making a birthday card. My mother taught piano lessons for many years, so as the kid of the piano teacher, I learned a little bit about music, but it has been a very long time. But I was curious if my little melody that I just made by randomly putting notes on the staff would sound like anything. So I went to the pump organ and tried it out. For ukulele styling, I like to use a dark pen to color in the tuning knobs and the charm hole. Then if I flip it over and add a little bit of glue around the circle opening, then I can use that solid black circle to fill that in. And that's the one where I had cut it out of the shiny and then realized I didn't want to fight the glue on it. So I cut it again out of just a flat black. For the front of the ukulele, there are 3 things to put on there. So there is the frets themselves. I usually start with those because if I add those first, then the little ring that goes around the circle opening will actually overlap the frets a little bit too. Okay, now you have to suspend realism a little bit when you're working with musical instruments this small. So there is a set of strings. It's only 2 strings, not 4, but it does give you the essence of a ukulele. So I've made those a sticker, cut them out of a gold mirror card because I thought that would look cool. And then I'm just go in and add those. Now, if you really wanted to, you could cut that a second time and kind of mix in 2 more strings. They would just be really, really close together. Now, my husband, John, who did not play a musical instrument as a kid, during the pandemic just took up the ukulele. So he's just been kind of teaching himself that instrument. He recorded a couple stingers for me. I've used those on a few videos. So in his honor, I included a ukulele in this set. Okay, let's talk about this grand piano. So you've got this piece that supports the lid, and there are 2 little tick marks in it that are score lines. So I found those 2 tick marks. It doesn't really matter which direction I fold them. And honestly, it doesn't really matter that they're right on the folds either, because when you push that through to the inside, just make sure it's a zigzag. So you basically have a valley fold and then a mountain fold. So you want that little stick up piece to be a zigzag like you see here. Okay, so the way this works is that that little support accordion folds down into a flat position, and then you just add a little glue to the top and you use it to support the lid of the grand piano. Okay, so a little bit of glue. I like LINECO neutral pH adhesive in my fine tip bottle. We sell both those items on our website. A little glue on the top of the stack, collapse it down so it's flat, or just really honestly just close the lid of the piano because it'll flatten it for you, and then attach it. So then when you look at it from the side, so what you have is you have that little support that raises the piano lid, but it collapses down really easily into a flat position. Then there is a black keys overlay that will go over the top of the white rectangle, and those are sized the same so that they just match up perfectly. Then I just put some adhesive on the back of the grand piano around that slot opening, and then just stick the keyboard to it. So I do have that black shiny, so I'm going to have to take a second to really get it to set up. Actually, let me just disconnect the lid for a second because I shouldn't have attached that yet. It's much easier to attach the keyboard when you can see the slot that you're trying to fill in. So I'm just going to go in there and make sure that the black portion of the keys is filling in that hole that's in the back grand piano. Now I've got that accordion fold support, and if I want to, I can take that extra piece and fill in the opening. So all that really does is just ensure that when this goes through the mail and it gets really, really squished down, that the accordion fold holder doesn't get trapped down in that opening. So now it can't get trapped because I filled it in. And then now I go back and just add that adhesive to attach the lid. So I really should save the lid for the last thing. I just kind of forgot. Okay, so there's that finished grand piano charm. It will work great just dangling off of something, or if you don't want it as a charm, you can just chop the charm hole off. That completes the assembly, and now let's look at some samples. In this same release, we have the new piano keys pop-up, and that's going to work really, really nicely with those music charms. So you can see the music in the background of the piano keys, and then on the front, even having the piano charm dangling off of one of the staff lines. If you need some greeting ideas, we have some new little 3x4 clear stamps with sentiments that match the pop-up die, so in this case, a music set. This card has a little glittery trumpet on the front. Hello, just a note to say you make my heart sing. So our Just a Note Lorna add-ons are going to be great to go with the music charms because obviously the Just a Note could be a music note. For this next card, I repeated the keyboard section of the grand piano charm to make a long piano keys border. And then inside the grand piano charm is dangling out of the opening. I made that double-sided, so if it spins around, it still looks great on both sides. And then a nod to Lois for the idea of having the music actually play Happy Birthday to You. Okay, let's look at some music charms inspiration from our very talented design team. Here's a thank you music themed accordion by Sue Small Kreider. I love her choice to make the music staff and notes white. I like Sandy's use of the shiny gold paper here for this Christmas card. You can see she's mixed in those music charms. In this Wild Thing, You Make My Heart Sing Happy Birthday card by Sue Small Kreider, she basically has personified the music charms by adding googly eyes and some arms, even a microphone. I love this card. Strike up the band, it's your birthday, says Lois Bach on this 4-page fancy label accordion. Hard to show the dangling charms in the overhead, so I'll just go to the photo. And then another accordion card by Lois, this time using the landscape rectangle accordion with those music charms and those new clear stamps. I really love Lois's idea of dropping the Easter egg of having the music be an actual song. So in this case, for her Independence Day card, it is the Star Spangled Banner. I like how Frances used the music charms over the top of music-themed paper on this happy birthday card. Here's Jen Webster with a doubled piano keys pop-up in a slimline card along with those music charms. Ken Shan with a music-themed Christmas card. I like everything being cut in red. Nikki Foden made a black and white card, but then there's a secondary card inside, and when that opens, it is an explosion of color. And then Suzanne Smith with a fancy label accordion with those music charms. Love the bright colors and the confetti. The Music Charms die set is available now from a lot of your favorite local and online retailers and from our website, KarenBurniston.com, starting July 1st, 2024. Thanks for watching. If you click on the website link, you'll go to KarenBurniston.com, where you can purchase these dies as well as find links to our other social media accounts. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel and check out some of my other videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.